Excited. My name is Ryan Torres. I'm a program manager on North America Sales Operations. In April, I will be celebrating a decade with Tesla. So it's absolutely amazing to see where we've come in all these years. The first store that I started in was literally the size of that garage. So seeing a facility this beautiful, I want to thank all the teams that made this happen. This is a state-of-the-art facility. Amazing job. Let's give it a round of applause to all the teams that made this happen. Woo! I am absolutely honored. I have some lovely, very special guests. The gentleman standing next to me, been with Tesla for 14 years. He's been part of every vehicle that we built from the ground up. Ladies and gentlemen, 14 years with Tesla, Wes Morrill.
Thanks, Ryan. Nice to meet you all. We'll end up doing a good intro around the vehicle. We'll talk through some features, what I've been excited about, what working on it, what we've learned in the process, and then we'll talk about some things you can do on test drives and all that. As Ryan mentioned, I've been at Tesla a while. I've got the opportunity to work on pretty much everything from original Roadster through what we're making today. It's been quite exciting, and Cybertruck was, the most exciting one for me so far. Maybe the next one will be even more exciting, but we'll see. But yeah, so I'm excited tonight to talk to you about all the features. I also own a Cybertruck. I drive it as my daily driver, so I'm a bit in love with it. So happy to answer questions that you might ask about living with it daily, not just, what are the sales figures, but anything you might be curious about. So we'll get to that.
Awesome. I also want to introduce Ari Nagger here. He's our manager of residential energy, also with a specialty in our PowerShare program, which we're also going to discuss as well. So super excited to introduce Ari as well.
It's great to see you all. Really excited to talk to you guys about PowerShare today and how you can unlock the Cybertruck battery to power your home and your life. So I work with Tesla Energy. I can also answer any questions about solar, Powerwall, and home charging in general. So very excited to be here.
Well, let's kick it off. What I'm excited to know, I'm also a Cybertruck owner. I'm just about to celebrate a year with it. I've had a lot of amazing vehicles in my life. I love the Cybertruck so much. It is such a work of art. Kudos to you and your team. You've done such a great job. In developing Cybertruck, what would you say was your favorite moment?
Ooh, tough one. There's a lot of good moments. We tend to index on the things towards the end, right? It's like most recent memory. And obviously towards the end was the most fun because we had a full vehicle. So we got to go out on the road and do some real testing. We made a video showcasing the off-road mode in Moab. That was pretty once-in-a-lifetime experience, pretty cool. We drove the trucks from San Diego down to Baja, through Baja down to Cabo, over 1,200 miles. That was pretty cool. But actually, all those experiences are great. The thing that was most exciting for me was all the way at the beginning when we were trying to figure out how do we make the vehicle that is what you see today actually function as a great vehicle, have a great powertrain, have a good crash structure, be safe, meet all the things that you expect the vehicle to do by default. In particular, I think all of the structure of the vehicle was an interesting challenge because, as we've talked about time and again, we leveraged a lot of the exterior for some of the structural modes, and torsional stiffness and side crash, and then we also had to design the structure that's in the castings to absorb front and rear crashes as well. So all of that was a very interesting engineering challenge, and that was actually maybe the most exciting part. But yeah, there's a ton we can talk through.
Awesome. One of my favorite things about our vehicles, literally everyone in my family drives a Tesla at this point, is truly the safety of our vehicles. Talk to us more about how safe our vehicles are, and especially with all the engineering that went into the safety.
Yeah, so in development phase, we start with a clean sheet design, and we figure out, okay, we've got to package a motor, we've got to package a battery, we need a structure, crash structure, where are we putting airbags, all of that. Pretty standard car design things. Then when it starts getting challenging is when you add in the different constraints on shape, And actually, Cybertruck, you can kind of see, has the shortest crush zone of any car that we have made so far, despite also being the most massive car that we've made so far. That's like a double whammy on challenge for crash. But we have a great analysis team who does super cool work with high-speed analysis of both the crash structure, how the airbags deploy, how the occupants react to those airbags, and then we correlate that in test. We probably crashed around 70 or so Cybertrucks to get to what we have today in internal development testing. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work that's gone into by a lot of different people, a lot of different teams to make this safe, and think about all the different corner cases from, you know, all the regulatory modes where we say, you know, there's a specific crash on the front, side, rear, but also all of the real world crashes that we get the data back from our fleet and we can know this is not covered by a regulatory case, but we want to protect for it. And so we design around that as well. So it's an incredible amount of work by a ton of people who look at every little detail of the crash structure. So it's pretty cool.
I'm going to switch mics.
Hello. All right, we'll try that one. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about the steel and what's unique about our steel.
Yeah, so this is 300 series stainless steel, but it's a custom alloy. You might think of typical stainless steel. You've probably heard of things like 304, 314. These are different grades of steel, and they have different corrosion resistance composition. In particular, this is it's neither a 304 or a 314, 316. It's kind of a 300 series alloy that's similar, but actually you can go look up the patent and see what all the special ingredients are that go into it. But it's designed to be super tough, more malleable so we can form it, and super corrosion resistance, resistance to pitting corrosion. So, you know, when you see a Cybertruck, you see this nice shiny glossy finish. If you see something on there that looks like rust, maybe, but actually that rust is most likely a surface contaminant. So stainless is quite reactive. You can get, if you had an iron particle, which kind of exists everywhere in the world, they can land on the stainless and that iron particle will then oxidize and you'll see a little red speck. But it's easy to clean off. I generally recommend the easiest cleaning is just use Windex. You can just spray it on and wipe it off, and it also gets the fingerprints off, so it's maybe the easiest car I've ever owned to clean. And then there's some products that we recommend in the owner's manual to do a deeper clean if you do have any tough set-on stains. So you can check that out as well. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that was a question in my ownership. Lots of people say, you know, don't the trucks rust? And what it, you know, a lot of the cause of that is actually just what was the contaminants in the air. So it is super easy to clean, and it is such an amazing alloy that our teams helped develop here. Now tell us about towing capacity of the vehicle.
Yeah, sure. So right down here, we've got the Cybertruck in general is designed to be super aerodynamic. So what you'll see is, even though we have a tow hitch, you can't actually see it. It's behind this panel. This panel's got 3 half-turn screws on the bottom, and it'll pop right off. And underneath, you'll find a traditional 2-inch hitch receiver. And the towing capacity for Cybertruck's 11,000 pounds, which is a pretty crazy number. And you know, we've kind of demonstrated that in a couple ways. Obviously, we've tested durability and typical auto industry specs. But you've probably seen also when we did the launch event, we did the feats of strength. So we had the truck pull competition. So we hooked the Cybertruck and several other trucks up to a towing sled. That sled weighs about 55,000 pounds. And it's a pretty neat thing. Like, as you go down the track, the weights move further over the skid, and the skid starts digging into the dirt. So it gets harder and harder to pull the further you get down the track. So we did that. That's, you know, a bit outside of the tow rating, but nonetheless, no problems. And then the other kind of feat of strength was towing a 911 while racing a 911. And obviously that is not, you know, something I'd recommend you all do, but it speaks to kind of the capability of the truck, both in speed, performance, and towing. Yeah. So yeah, I think, so overall Cybertruck's pretty great to tow with. when you hook up something, you basically feel like there's nothing there at all. Like if you compare it to towing with a traditional vehicle, you can kind of feel the weight behind the vehicle, but because there's such great torque and kind of instant response, you don't get the lag that you normally feel in the throttle while towing so much extra weight. So a lot of people have described it as it feels like you're towing nothing at all. It's a great feeling. Yeah.
I was actually part of, I'm not sure if you guys heard about it, but we did a tour in New York City where we had the Cybertruck pull in a clear trailer with the Model Y in it. And our driver was actually Taylor Swift's driver. And when he first started driving the Cybertruck, I cannot tell you that he was impressed. About 2 hours into it, he fell so in love. He was calling his friends saying, it does not feel that I'm pulling a trailer at all. And by the end of our journey, he was placing his order for one that he fell that much in love. So it is absolutely amazing in terms of towing capacity. Let's now discuss the Tonneau cover. It's really an amazing feature. I stuff a lot of stuff in the back. It protects it, but we'd love to hear more about the engineering that went into this.
Yeah, the goal was to try to make a functional cover for the bed that was, looks great, but also provides some safety and comfort to the owner. So obviously you've got a bed, it's super utilitarian, you want it to be tough. We needed the cover to be tough too. So that was one of the primary objectives from Elon was, I want to be able to stand on it. It should be so tough that I can stand up here and I can jump up and down. So that was one of the initial design requirements and drove some of the toughness there. We've also powder coated it for extra durability. And then, in general, it will stop most of the elements from getting in. It's not a waterproof area. It's still a working bed. But I store a bunch of my equipment, my bikes and whatever, in the bed. And as long as the Tonneau's cover's closed, you may get some water that runs down the side, but it doesn't generally get anything in the bed wet. So it's been great for me. I can have some nice bikes back there, go park wherever in the city. Nobody can tell because the Tonneau's closed. Just looks like every other Cybertruck out there.
How about aerodynamics? I notice a pretty big difference when I have mine open. Tell us about aerodynamics and how that came into the designs.
Yeah, totally. Aero is something that was a consideration in every detail of the truck. So, tonneau cover is an obvious one. If you have it open, there's a big gaping hole. Generally bad for aerodynamics. But it's not just a tonneau cover. When we look at everything, like I was mentioning earlier, there's a cover for the tow hitch. The wiper, when you start driving, you'll see it, if you pay really close attention, it moves slightly. And the reason it does that, it's going from this perfectly parallel, which looks great while it's parked, to what we call aero park, which is a little bit more efficient by moving in a few degrees off the corner of the windshield. And every detail around the edge of the truck was considered in the same regard. This edge was intentionally designed to create a little eddy current around here so that you have the flow stays more attached as it goes over the wheel. So there's many little details like this all around the truck, but aero is a huge consideration. Despite the way the truck might look, your intuition might be otherwise, but we spent a lot of time and a lot of effort to fine-tune every little detail.
Amazing. One of my favorite things about the vehicle is steer-by-wire. It is absolutely mind-blowing how tight it can turn and just how easy it is. Tell us about steer-by-wire.
Yeah, steer-by-wire is an interesting one. It's easy to say, hard to describe. I definitely would encourage anyone who hasn't driven the truck. We've got a bunch of vehicles out there for test drives. Go experience it yourself. I'll try my best to describe it, but really you need to drive it to feel it. But effectively, the steering wheel, normally you have to go hand over hand and spin it around several rotations to get all the way to the end travel of the wheel. And in Cybertruck, we've limited it so it only needs to go 170 degrees in either direction. So you basically, even if you wanted to go all the way lock to lock, you never have to take your hands off the wheel. So that makes it feel really confidence-inspiring because you can get a really sharp turning radius without having to take your hands off the wheel. You can do it very quickly. The other addition to that is we have rear wheel steering. So not only are the front wheels turning when you're turning that hand wheel, but the rear wheels are turning, and that makes the radius of the turning radius of the car or the truck shrink. So the turning radius of the truck is actually closer to a Model Y than it is to any other pickup truck. And it's pretty crazy when you see the size of this thing, and maybe outside of there, like parked next to a Y, you'll get a good idea of really how crazy that is. But it makes you feel like Superman driving the truck because it just responds instantly to whatever you're doing. And then the steer-by-wire enables us to do a bunch of neat things. So one, when you're driving at low speed, as we just described, the wheels turn opposite of each other to shrink the turning radius. But when you're driving at high speed, they actually turn in phase. And so if you imagine you're driving down the highway and you want to change lanes, you don't want to immediately like rotate and then rotate back in the lane. It'd be really uncomfortable for the passengers. In this way, the wheels both rotate in the same direction and you translate into the other lane. So it's a lot less yaw and it feels a lot more comfortable. And it leads to a lot less head toss is what we call it, like when the body rolls when you're changing lanes. And so generally it makes the ride feel a lot more smooth. So that's one thing. And the other is we can change the steering ratio based on speed. So when you're in a parking lot and you want to make a sharp turn, you can turn it all the way, and you get that nice tight turning radius. But when you're at high speed, you also don't want to be on the highway and make a little turn and be 4 lanes over there. So at higher speed, we adjust the steering ratio to make it more comfortable. So yeah.
Now, in terms of comfort, another feature I love so much is when people get in my truck, they are just blown away how comfortable the ride quality is. It's mind-blowing. There's one section, I'm from Northern California, there's one section on my commute when I go to Fremont where there's a large pothole and many cars have blown tires, and I recall hitting that pothole and I literally did not feel it. The ride quality is so good. So tell us about air suspension and all the amazing things put in.
Yeah, I mean the chassis here is pretty crazy. There's a ton of different inputs that lead you to have that kind of experience. One is we've got a 35-inch tire, so the tires are absolutely huge, which generally makes it easier to roll over any obstacle, and you feel them less. And it's also adds a bit more comfort because the tire sidewall's a bit taller. In addition to that, you mentioned air suspension. It's a big component because it allows you to both have a higher ground clearance when you need it. So low speeds, we raise the ride height. And then at high speeds, at highway speeds, we lower down for aero efficiency. And you can set that also manually, so you can adjust it on the UI. Also, when you're in off-road mode, which we'll talk about in a little bit, you have even more control over that ride height. And then a part that's maybe less talked about, but maybe even more important, is the dampers for the Cybertruck are actively controlled dampers. So we can control compression and rebound damping electronically, which means as you're driving through that pothole, we can adjust how much damping force you're getting, both as it falls into the hole and as it returns out of the hole. And so that actually is part of the magic that makes it feel so smooth.
Now, speaking of off-road mode, you got your American trip when you went to Baja, and then also Hell's Gate. Tell us about off-road mode.
Yeah, unlocked a ton of features. So we gave the users basically a off-road version of track mode. So in Baja mode, you have the ability to adjust the slider and put the power to the rear, put the power to the front, balance it however you want. Add traction control, reduce traction control is very similar to the working theory behind track mode. And then we have a more controlled off-road driving. And then in that mode, you can adjust your different terrain settings. And those terrain settings control the traction control differently to best optimize for traction or slipping, depending on what you're trying to do. In a rock mode, for example, you want traction. You want the wheels to try to all be not slipping, because typically you're climbing up and over obstacles that are very intermittent. But in sand mode, actually you just want the wheels to spin. Most of the time you just want to keep the wheels spinning. As soon as your wheels stop spinning, you end up getting stuck. So, and there's everything in between. So you can play with those modes in Cybertruck, and then we also have, on the dual motor, a locking differential both on the front and on the rear, electronically locking that you can control in off-road mode. You can also control the rear locking differential in on-road mode. So if you're in a slippery surface, highway driving, snow situation, without even having to get into off-road mode, you can go into the menu and click on slippery surface and enable the diff locker in the rear, which is a huge gain for stability while driving.
Awesome. Now let's talk about practical. For folks that have children, how many car seats can we fit in here?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can actually fit 3 wide in the back. The width of this vehicle is more than any other vehicle that we make, and we've got ISOFIX anchors in all 3 positions, so you can fit both a forward-facing or rear-facing child seat in any of those 3 positions, or all 3 of those positions. So it's pretty flexible. And then while we're talking about the back seats, oh, we died again. Hello. All right. So while we're talking about the back seats, they also fold up, and when they fold up, you can then use it as a utility storage area. And it's a 60-40 split, so you can have a child seat on one seat, you can fold the other 2 seats up, or you can have 2 child seats in and fold the 1 seat up, and it's basically ultimate configuration for however you want to use the truck.
Another amazing thing is the doors actually open 90 degrees.
Yeah, it's a feature that you don't know you need until you realize how easy it is to get into the back seat with the door all the way open. And we don't have this capability in the front, and typically most doors don't. They stop a little bit shy of 90. So it was some effort to do that, but I think it was a good decision in the end, because it really makes loading things into that area really easy.
Amazing. I want to hear about PowerShare. So my wife and I actually took our truck and we powered it from our outlets, our air fryer, our electric grill, refrigerator, and it was just wild to us that we were out in the wild and being able to have the convenience and comforts from our home. So Ari and Wes, I'd love to hear about PowerShare.
Yeah, well, since we're talking about the truck, let's start there. The truck itself has an onboard power conversion system, and that allows us to generate a grid within the truck. So there's actually AC outlets inside the cabin, and then there's also AC outlets in the bed. And we have both 120 volt outlets and a 240 volt outlet. That 240 volt outlet in the bed can do 40 watts continuous, 40 amps continuous, 48 amps peak, about 9.6 kilowatts. We also have a bidirectional universal mobile charger, which you can plug into the charge port, and that will get you up to 11 kilowatts. So overall, very capable. I've seen some people online welding, which is a pretty high current activity, and very peaky current as well. So it's pretty cool to see the capability of the truck be able to support something like that.
Yeah, and it's awesome. You can, if you have a friend that's maybe pulled over on the side of the road and ran out of juice, you can charge their vehicle up, which is really cool. So that's PowerShare on the vehicle, sort of taking the bidirectional inverter and power from the truck wherever you go, a campsite, a tailgate, whether you're camping, you can use it for that. PowerShare Home Backup unlocks backup power for your house using your vehicle. So right here, I don't know if many of you guys can see. Yeah, it's a little heavy.
Do you folks experience power outages around the area?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's our solution.
Yeah, just maybe a show of hands. Who in the crowd has solar or Powerwall? Okay, cool. So you're already in our energy ecosystem. Yeah, so with the PowerShare home backup system, this is our PowerShare gateway, similar to the one that we use for Powerwall. And this gets installed at your home. You can contact a Tesla certified installer. And with the PowerShare gateway and our universal wall connector, which is our home charger, you can charge your Cybertruck up to 11.5 kilowatts, which is really fast. It's overnight you can charge your car up and get back to work and where you need. And you can use the gateway. So the gateway detects outages when your vehicle is plugged in and transitions your home off-grid and backs up your home during outages, during storms, and sort of transitions your home in up to 3 seconds. And with your Cybertruck's huge battery, can power your home up to 3 days without solar. And if you have solar, you can recharge your vehicle battery and power your home while you're off grid, sort of indefinitely, which is really awesome. So you can sort of leverage the vehicle battery to power your home.
Amazing. All right, we're going to open it up to questions. This is a cyber chat question and answer session. Eric is just here with his hand up. So please feel free to form a line if you'd like to ask us a question. Eric will be...
Yep. Got it.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you for turning it over. Yeah, so we've got some questions out here. What I'm going to ask you to do is say your name and then go ahead and ask your question. What's your name? What's your question?
My name is Chad. My question is, for someone that drives a truck every day for work, what advantages would a Cybertruck have over any other?
I mean, the obvious one is fuel. The cost to run an electric vehicle is significantly less than the cost to run an internal combustion engine, especially if you're running on diesel. So yeah, I think that's an easy one. The other answer is autopilot. I mean, it's not a truck feature, it's just a feature. And I'd highly encourage you to try it again if you have the time tonight. Go out in the demo and try to activate FSD. Even just yesterday, earlier this week, anyway, I don't know the exact date, we shipped V13 to Cybertruck, and I've been driving it around for a few days now. It's great. I love it. I encourage you to try it if you haven't. But I think that's two of my biggest things as someone driving this vehicle every day.
Great. What's your name? What's your question?
My name is Guy, and my question is, I've got two Cyber Beasts. They're phenomenal. We love them. And we got the off-road light bars installed, and they are even cooler. I would love to be able to control them through the app. And right now, we can only control the ditch lights in tent mode. I was wondering if that's suggested.
Yeah, it's a good feature request. We'll definitely share it with the team. I think it's certainly doable. It's just we'll end up on the priority queue, and we'll see if we can make it happen.
I do. What's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name's Cynthia, and I was curious, how does it perform when you're towing or off-roading?
Yeah, I mean, you can go on YouTube, check out the off-road video where we showcase off-road mode. But I had a blast driving it through Moab because it just conquered everything. We went on these trails, and we'd get up to an obstacle, and you'd look at it and kind of be like, I don't know, that doesn't look like something you should drive on. And then the Cybertruck just drove up it with no problem. Kind of off-roading in easy mode is what I was calling it. And then, like I said, towing, for me, it's been much more relaxing towing with the Cybertruck than with any other vehicle because you don't feel the pressure of the tow rig behind you. It just feels comfortable. And yeah, so I think that's what I'd say to that.
Great. Okay, I believe we have one other question over here. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, this is Amrita. My question is, what has something that new owners have discovered that you guys hadn't envisioned previously?
I mean, owners are always finding some way to break everything, so it's pretty good. We've learned a lot, and I mean, the thing that's pretty cool about Tesla is, we are constantly improving the vehicles from what we learn, not only for the new owners, but over the air. So as we figure out how to mitigate something, how to make the experience better, how to make mobile app functionality for your off-road light bar, we then, push it out to all the existing owners. So that's pretty great.
Good. I don't know if everyone here knows about it, but our software updates are absolutely amazing. When I get a software update, sometimes you get so many features, it totally feels like you just got a new car. And you do this it's as simple as your cell phone. And to answer the other question about just the convenience of the truck, it's really like, once you have a charger, I personally have solar Powerwall in the whole ecosystem, but I get home from work, I plug in, next day I'm fully charged. If there was ever a power outage, I'm already topped off from the prior day. So I really never ever have range concerns. And just the ease of the vehicle, the software updates, we love feedback, and so as we receive that feedback, we can put it in that software update, and then now you have those fun features.
Yeah, and to talk about that, you kind of use it like a cell phone, right? When you don't think about your cell phone and worry, am I going to make it through the day with the battery? Just plug it in at night. Next day you get up, use it all day. You get home, plug it in at night. Kind of rinse and repeat the process. And I agree. I'm fortunate enough to have also solar. The hard steel that we built was to make it super tough. And you want it to be tough in everyday applications. So of course that was more about scratch and dent resistance. But in an effort to make it really an exoskeleton, we had to increase the thickness to a point where it's actually pretty substantial. So, you know, the door panels on this vehicle are 1.8 millimeters thick, and we've been able to test it to pretty much everything that comes out of a handgun and have it stop those bullets. So, you know, I'm sure there's always faster ammo, but it definitely will take a shopping cart, no problem.
Great. There you go.
Hey guys, my name's Chris. Appreciate you guys always engaging with the community, especially on X. I'm a Cybertruck owner as well as PowerShare, solar roof and Powerwalls. I know that the future they get PowerShare with existing Powerwall users starting hopefully next year. We currently have the virtual power plant event in Southern California where we get paid $2 per kilowatt. I'm hoping that we could empty that battery out during those times and make some money. It's something I'm going to throw that.
Yeah, it's awesome that you have a Powerwall. It is something that we're working on with Cybertruck, hopefully coming sometime next year. Yeah.
Ari, do you want to talk about the features we have shipped for PowerShare with Cybertruck?
Yeah, so today Cybertruck works with PowerShare with this PowerShare gateway by itself or with solar. We're about to release solar by the end of the year, sort of like a holiday update, where, like I mentioned, PowerShare will back up your home and use that solar to power your truck and your home while off grid. If you just have a solar inverter today and you don't have a battery, when the grid goes out, your inverter actually doesn't work. So Cybertruck actually increases the utility of that inverter so it can stay on all the time. And I didn't mention this before, but Cybertruck can power your home with up to 11.5 kilowatts, which is the same as our Powerwall 3, which is a huge amount of power. The average home needs about 1 Powerwall in the US. So you essentially have that in the Cybertruck, and you have up to 9 Powerwalls of energy in the battery, which is huge, which is really great.
Yeah, it's always a fun fact. 9 Powerwalls that you can drive to work and back.
On wheels.
What's your name and what's the question?
What's up, Wes? Director Truck That's hi, by the way. Back in May, I'm curious, when is the PowerShare for Cybertrucks currently, if you have solar, when is that going to become active?
He was asking when is this PowerShare for solar going to be active?
PowerShare with solar is going to be active at the end of the year. You should get enough updates are going to start rolling out end of the year, early January, just like you get your vehicle updates and your Powerwall updates.
Thank you.
What's your name? What's the question?
Say, y'all. First of all, my name's Matt Wallace. I drove here all the way from Vegas when I heard y'all were going to be out here. So thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for making the drive. It probably took you less time than it took me to get from Hawthorne to here. So
I didn't drive the Hawthorne to here. But, so in 2019, the original Cybertruck had a bench seat, and a lot of people have expressed frustration to me that they can't get one because they have a large family. I was wondering, what was the reason for taking out the bench seat, and are we going to possibly see it later on?
Sure. I think we've talked about in the past some of the trials and tribulations, but I'll revisit quickly. When we were going through the design of Cybertruck, at one point we decided, all right, I think we've got it. We've got the full feature set. We built some prototypes and we were driving them around. And as we were driving them around, we reviewed it with Elon, and we kind of got together afterwards. We're talking through it. Like, it's too big. It's just a little bit too big. And so we think we need to reduce it by about 5%. And it's not necessarily one of those things you can just go into CAD, Control A times 0.95 done. Everything has to get scaled, but the humans that go inside the vehicle don't get scaled. So as we reduced it down, we wanted to keep the driver's seat and the passenger seat super comfortable. And that middle seat, you can imagine, look at the console. Imagine that you have to fit a person in the space of that console. They get quite a little space. And so we just didn't feel like that was the premium feature we wanted to lead with. I think it's still a potential that we'll bring someday. It just wasn't a priority to get out at first because we really wanted to make sure that the experience you get on day one was the best experience you could have. Yeah, no problem.
What was your name and what's your question?
My name's Richard, and long-time Tesla driver, EV driver. Love road tripping in Tesla, so supercharging network. However, I was just always wondering, is there any plans for more range without using the extended range battery pack, or just more range in general with the extended range battery pack?
Sure, I think a couple things. One, we're basically always making the vehicles more efficient. So through firmware updates, we're always learning how the different ECUs are working, where they're needed, where they're not needed to be on. Even I think the most recent update made Sentry mode more efficient, and in the end that gives you more range because it means your car's not using that energy while it's parked. So that's definitely one big thing that we're always chasing, is trying to make the hardware we have today more efficient. And we do that over the air, and we send it to every vehicle. That includes the vehicles that are already on the road. And then, yeah, of course, there's always cell energy roadmaps where over time you can look back at all of our vehicles. We've steadily increased the range as the technology improves in cells, and I don't think Cybertruck will be an exception.
Great, thank you. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, Chris, Cyberbeast owner, huge fan of off-road mode. In fact, I take my Cybertruck off-roading a lot. If you've seen that video of a Cybertruck getting stuck in a river about 6 months ago, hi, that was me. Basically, here's my question. So I take it off-road a lot, and I've been beating up the battery pack to the point where I've got a lot of dents, and I've been checking it, and definitely had that concern because any other Tesla you can impact the battery cell. But after watching the setting of road chart on, I noticed that there was that space in between the actual cells and the ground. Is that an intentional design for off-roading, or am I just being really, really unsmart?
Yeah, good question. The battery pack was designed with a vent gap on the bottom, so that when you do have those underside impacts and you cause a dent, it's just denting into the air that's in the pack. And so there's an air gap between the bottom of the pack and the cell. Additionally, coming soon, I don't want to commit on the exact date because every time I do it, it gets later. But we have off-road armor coming, which you'll be able to bolt up to the bottom of your battery pack, as well as rock sliders, which should give you a little bit more functionality and toughness along the rocker of the vehicle. Yeah, enjoy.
Great question. What's your name and what's your question?
Hey, my name is Saeed, and I actually drove my Model S Plaid from Toronto.
Wow. I think you might win for the longest ride.
Yeah,
We thank you very much.
And I stopped at the Giga Texas actually on my way. In any case, my question was about the silhouette of the vehicle and how that became. What was the inspiration for that? And my second question was the rear window. Did you ever think about having it move up and down? What's the reason why it doesn't?
Yeah, so the silhouette was basically one of the first things that got sketched out, and I'm not maybe the expert to talk to it, but I think personally I love it, and it's pretty cool the way the light reflects because of the faceted angle of the side, especially in low light. What you get is the highlight of the character line, and you get that perfect silhouette. So anyway, I think Franz did a great job. Franz and his design studio team did a great job. To the second question, talking about the back window, it was something we considered, and again, it was a innocent bystander of the 5% reduction. As we looked at the vehicle and we shrunk it by 5%, the back seat started getting a little bit cramped, and so we were trying to figure out how can we gain a few millimeters here and there back. And so we started finding places we could shift things, and one of the big ones was the back wall has some thickness, both for the tonneau that goes up, and then we had some thickness so the window can roll down. And when you look at open the back door and look in, you'll see the back window has a bit of an angle. So then you have to protect for space that's a little bit even bigger than the width of that window. So we found if we deleted the rolling window, obviously we're deleting a part, we're removing complexity and cost, but we also gained back probably almost 2 inches of space of now what is rear leg room. So when we looked at that, we said, okay, well, probably almost every Cybertruck will have a rear occupant sitting in it and will appreciate that 2 inches, and a lot less owners will appreciate that the back window rolls down. So we want to optimize for what we thought was going to be the greater area of happiness under the area curve.
What's the question?
Hi, my name is Brian. I'm an employee over at XAI, and I just was curious as to, we saw with the most recent update that when you speak to your car, the first time it responds back, so if you say hi, it says hello. Is there plans on possibly bringing Grok into future Teslas or even current Teslas that exist today?
I don't know. I feel like somebody asked Elon this online. Does anybody in the crowd know? Yeah. And the answer was yeah. That sounds right. I would believe that. I don't know, but I think check X. I'm pretty sure someone asked Elon, and if he replied yes, it'll eventually happen.
2 weeks.
Thank you. 2 weeks. What's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Omar, and I actually had a question about the size for the Cybertruck. So I'm a big guy, I'm 6'7", so I was curious, would you guys ever consider making a bigger Cybertruck? And also, too, if you guys would possibly do a single cab one, because I know there's a lot of people that only need the 2 seats up in front.
Called a semi.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it may be in the future roadmap. What I'd say is, I don't know, have you sat in the Cybertruck? What do you think of it?
It's good, but I kind of touched the grass a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you've probably seen, but I think Shaq has two Cybertrucks. So, I mean, you're competing with Shaq there on occupant space, I guess. But yeah, I mean, overall, for sure, we tried to make sure that the cabin was designed so that you could slam the seat and your head's basically right at the peak. So we're trying to maximize the space there. But yeah, there may be some improvements coming in the future, both for the seat adjustability. That's definitely easier than making a bigger Cybertruck.
Yeah, lower the seat.
Great question. What's your name? What's your question?
My name's Aaron. I'm also a Cybertruck owner. I'm also a filmmaker, and I'm just curious. The question I always ask in documentaries, like, what was the hardest part of making it, and then also the most fun, like designing it?
Well, I talked a little bit about my favorite challenge before. I'd say that was the hardest part, which is also why it was my favorite, because there was so much trade-offs we had to do.
Are you the last?
And it was also very early on in the design phase, so there's a lot of flexibility. So it's like you have infinite variables to adjust. How do you adjust them to optimize them? And in a way that doesn't necessarily, you want to trade off crash performance, but you don't want to reduce durability. You want to keep torsional stiffness so it drives like a sports car. You don't want to reduce the occupant package.
Man.
You want to have a big front. It's like all sort of competing variables. And so it's like a pretty fun trade space to go through and try and optimize. So that was maybe both the hardest part and one of the most fun, for sure.
Great. What's your name and what's your question?
My name is Will. I run the F the Pump social media, so you guys know. So Cybertruck is my 5th Tesla over 9 years. I loved it. Thank you very much for building it. My question for PowerShare, though, in Southern California, Edison territory, the electricians are connecting everything but the PowerShare. It's actually hanging in an orange bag on my meter right now. They say that Tesla in Southern California can't figure out how to do it. You mentioned an update coming, but I don't even have mine connected. Is there a roadmap on it, or is this the wrong question for you?
No, that's the right question. So we don't have that product up here, but that is the backup switch.
Would you mind holding this while I talk?
SCE is currently installing them for Powerwall, but not yet for PowerShare. We're working with them to get that approved to actually start installing that. We're hoping, sometime by the end of the year, maybe in January, they'll come to your house, plug it in, and then your system will work.
By the end of the year, you think?
I don't want to promise, but that's what we're talking about with them.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Great question. What's your name and what's your question?
Chris from Accelerating Tech Channel. I got one question that most Cybertruck new owners have is, did you think about a different finish for the stainless steel that would not attract as many fingerprints? And the second one is, any chance the Cybertruck was designed as a multiple vehicle platform, other possible platform?
Sure, yeah, on the fingerprints, I mean, we went through all sorts of different finishes. It ends up being a good trade-off between how shiny do you want it. Surprisingly, the more shiny you make it, the less fingerprint prone it is. It's a little counterintuitive. But you've probably seen like the chrome Cybertruck driving around online. If you imagine the matte finish is really imperfections in the surface, and when you get a fingerprint, it's like your finger oil, like it's getting stuck in those crevices. When you have the super shiny truck, there's no crevices, so fingerprints don't really stick, but it's really shiny. and generally studio prefers something a bit more matte looking. So we've had all sorts of samples. We even optimized in the color. If you look at the stainless in sunlight and compare it to maybe a stainless piece that you might get from, I don't know, Home Depot or something, you'll see that this is a little bit more of a blue color. And so yeah, even down to optimizing the composition to tint the color a little bit is considered. So these are all things the studio has dreams about and tries to figure out what they think is going to be the best overall aesthetic in the end. So yeah, that's where we ended up. As far as multi-vehicle platform, I don't know. It certainly isn't designed that way. It's designed to be a Cybertruck. So that was the intent. Cybertruck is a Cybertruck.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Great, we're coming down to our last few questions here. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Amy. One of the things that really blows my mind about this vehicle is how you really rethought and redesigned from modern technology the systems, like 48 volts, low voltage wiring. How early in the design process did you make those decisions to do that type of thing, and what were the challenges associated with doing that? I mean, the benefits are clear, like the wiring harness has got to be so much simpler, so much lighter, but it's just really, really, really cool. And then you add the steer-by-wire, and like you were talking about, like, the slippery mode, the Grok mode, and the way you design different functions.
Yeah, good question. I think the nice thing about Cybertruck was, because it's so radically different, we kind of had free reign in the engineering level to do radically different things as well. And so from the start, we already knew we were going to bake in steer-by-wire. It was something we wanted to do. You know, when you think of a robotaxi, it doesn't have a steering wheel. And, you know, that needs to be something that gets developed. It doesn't just happen on its own. So we spent some time thinking, all right, this is the platform we're going to do that on. 48 volts has been a long time coming, as we've talked about a bunch. Is like, over the years, LV loads, low voltage loads in vehicles have just gone up and up and up. And those loads are just a function of how much power and then the voltage. So if we increase the voltage, you have less current and generate less heat. It's more efficient, weighs less, costs less, lots of good reasons to do it. So we knew also from the start we wanted to do that. 800 volt powertrain was the same. The larger the vehicle, the more beneficial high voltage is in the powertrain. And so it's pretty obvious, it's a pretty big vehicle, that this was going to be beneficial here. So all of that was there. There's even more architecture things that are a bit silly for the customer, but actually really cool for engineering. The communication within the car is typically in automotive a CAN bus, and we went to an Ethernet protocol. So it's actually several orders of magnitude faster in communication, and that enabled us to do a bunch of cool things around distributed controllers. So actually, the audio system in the truck we didn't talk about, but it's super good. And again, like I can say it, and you can listen to a video online, but you're just not going to get the depth of sound because it's like a video recorded on a phone, compressed through YouTube, and then coming out through your like AirPods or whatever. So like it's just not going to be good. Go sit in the trucks out there, turn on your favorite song, and just enjoy. But those speakers around the vehicle are not connected to a central controller. There's not a central amplifier that's controlling everything. Every speaker is connected to the controller that's nearest to it, and they're all talking over Etherloop. And we have to keep the delay small enough that it's not perceptible, which requires super high accuracy and timing that's shared across all the controllers. So the team spent a lot of time trying to make that work. It's not only useful for audio, but it's useful for all the controls. And then yeah, if I'm geeking out on audio a little bit, one other thing I'd say is on the structural design, actually the subwoofers are underneath the rear seat. And you won't actually notice them, even if you fold up the rear seats, they're visible. They're hidden in there. They're super tiny, relatively, but they have an outsized sound, and that's because those subwoofer housings are actually connected and integrated to the body sides. So we use the air volume inside the vehicle body side, the structure, as the reactive air volume for that subwoofer, which really helps generate more bass. So anyway, super cool things all Cybertruck. Thanks for the question.
Very cool. We've got time for 2 more questions. What's your name and what's your question?
My name is William, and I went on my first Cybertruck test drive last weekend, and I just wasn't ready. It blew me away. I had so much fun. So great job, guys.
Great, thanks.
Question I had was I couldn't use a rear view mirror when the Tonneau was down. I was wondering if there's any thought to connect to a digital camera so you can use it all the time.
Yeah, good question. There is a mode actually you can enable on the UI so that the digital camera comes up on that center screen. And you can have both that as well as when you put on the turn signal, it'll bring up a side repeater view. So you'll get both of these on the main screen. That screen's 18.5 inches large, so I'd say it's probably larger than we'd ever make a display up here, which gives you a lot more real estate. So yeah, you can enable that now right in the UI. You can disable it if you don't like it too. And then yeah, always open the Tonneau.
And there's a 3-camera view. My wife and I both drive with it. I actually removed the rear view mirror in my Cybertruck because it is so wonderful. It gives you 2 views of your blind spots, also a rear view. So it's something I would encourage you to try during your demo drive again. But it really, truly eliminates blind spots, and it's very wonderful.
Great. And our last question of the evening. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Sultan, and I'd like to ask if there were any FSD-specific design or engineering challenges with this Cybertruck, like camera placement, front bumper camera, anything else?
Yeah, I think maybe one of the design constraints was to try to make sure the camera placements were very similar to our other vehicles. It really helps leverage the fleet training that is already happening. You know, there's only so many Cybertrucks on the road, but we've been building vehicles like 2 million a year at this point, globally, and we can get all the training data from that. So you can imagine, let's say we made all the camera positions unique for Cybertruck. We now need to train uniquely on Cybertruck to build an end-to-end neural net. So that was certainly one of the first architecture, milestones where we said we have to put the cameras as close to the same spot as possible to make this really easy.
About the height?
The height was an interesting challenge because the height's adjustable. So that was something the AP team had to sprinkle some magic FSD dust on to make work. Sorry, not my area of expertise.
So that leads to semi then?
Yeah, sure.
And that's it, guys.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to thank you all so much for attending our grand opening of North Hollywood. I would love to encourage you. We actually have vehicles outside to demo drive. We have Cybertruck, we have Model Y, S, X, and 3. Please do drive those vehicles. I also want to thank Wes and Ari. Give it a round of applause for you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for attending. And thank you all so much. We appreciate you all, and please do, if anyone happens to fall in love after your demo drive, we do have some inventory vehicles staged out there that you could actually take home with you. So have fun, and once again, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you all.